Breaking right now, two extraordinary developments in terms of the media's relationship with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So, on the day that Hollywood turns on their former golden couple, the Daily Mail, which the Duke of Sussex is suing, has now turned on Catherine and William in order to promote the Sussexes. This is very mind-bending, but it's important and it matters. So we're going to take you through it all with the amazing transatlantic royal commentator, Lee Cohen. You can, of course, find his words in the Daily Telegraph, The Spectator, and The Sun. So, Lee, I want to kick off with The Hollywood Reporter because The Hollywood Reporter matters, okay? It is one of the most important publications for the entire entertainment industry. It is a Bible for the Hollywood elites. So this story is huge. Why Hollywood keeps quitting on Harry and Meghan is the headline. But then within this piece is a complete destruction of the way that Meghan Markle treats people. And in fact, this is just like the types of stories that I wrote during her time in the royal family and was accused, of course, of making things up or somehow being racist. But now her precious Hollywood types are saying exactly the same thing. So what is the key quote? This is a source close to Harry and Meghan, Lee, who says that everyone is leaving the employ of the Sussexes because, quote, everyone's terrified of Meghan. She belittles people. She doesn't take advice. They're both poor decision makers. They change their minds frequently. Harry is a very, very charming person, no airs at all, but he's very much an enabler. And she's just terrible. Lee, for the Hollywood Reporter to be breaking a story like this, it marks a massive sea change, does it not?
Well, Dan, I think you said it brilliantly, and I think what you've written in the past has certainly been more than vindicated. Yesterday's article from the Hollywood Reporter represents a devastating blow to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's public image, and it surpasses previous criticisms in severity and impact. The detailed insider revelations combined with the serious allegations against Markle's behavior and the credibility of the source are the newest reputational disaster to the Sussexes' public standing. Dan, it reinforces existing criticisms and suggests deeper systemic issues within the professional relationships, potentially jeopardizing the Sussexes' future endeavors in the entertainment industry.
Well, no one wants to work with them, do they? No one wants to work with them. Meghan cannot find a chief executive for America Riviera Orchard, an enterprise which is fast failing. And I mean, it's not a surprise, is it, Lee, when you actually look at the details of this story. So the Hollywood Reporter says here, Meghan and Harry have done it again. They've chewed up yet another American advisor. They say that these people now become the latest member of the ever-expanding Sussex Survivors Club. Now, Lee, initially, the Sussex Survivors Club was something that I was writing about, and it referred to the courtiers who had worked with Harry and Meghan and was so traumatized by their experience, by the bullying that they faced, that they formed this alliance. And the critical thing is, none of the members of the Sussex Survivors Club can speak up because they are tied by legally enforceable draconian confidentiality orders as a result of the fact that Harry and Meghan are members of the royal family. But I assume it's the same thing in Hollywood, Lee. I assume all of these staff members must sign NDAs before they go and work to Harry and Meghan, which presumably means they might be talking in confidence to the Hollywood Reporter, but are unable to speak publicly.
Well, one would imagine so, Dan, and one would imagine that with the track record and the revolving door of departures, that Harry and Meghan would seek to cover their tracks. There's so much that's damaging here, and you mentioned a lot of it. The article is published by the Hollywood Reporter, which is a respected and influential industry publication. This adds a layer of credibility. These are not just allegations that nameless people are making. Also, and you hinted at this as well, the investigation into Meghan's conduct by Buckingham Palace back when they were still working there, rather when they were still serving there, though inconclusive and ultimately dismissed, was a precursor to the troubling patterns observed in Meghan's American endeavors. Her dismissive attitudes toward these inquiries and her attempts to frame them as smear campaigns only underscores her inability to confront or rectify her problematic behavior.
Indeed. And you know what, Lee? I actually don't believe that the Buckingham Palace investigation was inconclusive or dismissed. I believe it was covered up, because the allegations against Meghan in this report were so damaging that if it were to be released, her reputation would be forever destroyed. And this was the royal family trying to almost negotiate peace, I guess, with the Duchess. We know what you did. We're not going to release it to the world, so you keep quiet. But the members of the Sussex Survivors Club now, Lee, include really credible people. I mean, Hollywood Reporter says Josh Kettler is part of it, the Santa Barbara-based consultant who had been serving as their chief of staff. Also, Christine Vale Schmermer. She was the one-time Pinterest communications director who quit as Harry and Meghan's PR head in 2021. Also, Toya Holness, who was their global press secretary. Then you obviously have people like Samantha Cohen, who had been the late Queen's top aide, and Sarah Latham, who was a very hard-assed woman who had worked for Hillary Clinton. So she was very used to the cut and thrust. These are not snowflakes who are part of the Sussex Survivors Club. These are serious professionals who say that Meghan's behaviour is so reprehensible that it makes it impossible to work for her.
Indeed, Dan. These are, as you say, they're not snowflakes. They're seasoned professionals, and not just seasoned professionals, but they're seasoned professionals who are used to working with demanding employers in demanding circumstances. So for so many of these capable people unable to cope with the toxic work environment created by the Duchess of Sussex, this is really, really a blockbuster.
And there's more. There's more, Lee. It just gets better in terms of the detail from the Hollywood Reporter. Let me go into it. So, some of the couple's stateside staff members also reserve special bile for Markle, whose reported penchant for noisy tantrums and angry 5 a.m. emails has earned her the in-house moniker Duchess Difficult. And this is a source, again, close to the couple. She's absolutely relentless. She marches around like a dictator in high heels, fuming and barking orders. I've watched her reduce grown men to tears. How can she recover from an expose like this, Lee?
Well, I think this is endemic of the downward trajectory that we see happening for the Sussexes' American dreams. And it confirms and validates the litany of prior negative reports that Meghan, while at the palace, made staff members feel sick and terrified in her presence. And now this is binational. It's happening on both sides of the Atlantic, on both oceans, Pacific and Atlantic.
Well, indeed. And Lee, do you know what it does? It completely smashes to pieces her previous defense. Do you remember this? She said, it was because I was American. They didn't understand me. There was a cultural clash when I was a member of the royal family. British people just aren't hardworking enough. They don't have a Hollywood American work ethic. They were the arguments that were constantly peddled by Meghan to try and degrade and undermine the serious multiple claims of bullying against her. Now,
And
how can
Dan,
she say that when it's now Americans who are making the complaint, when it's now Hollywood people who are making exactly the same complaints?
well, of course, and the thing that's so troubling about that statement, they didn't understand me. Everything is always from her perspective. I would say, rather, a better question is, she didn't understand them.
Mhm.
She didn't understand that she was entering a world of public service as a royal, where she wasn't the star player, and where she couldn't call all the shots. So, once again, everything is from her perspective. It's like when she famously asked during her pregnancy, well, nobody's asked, how I'm doing.
I know. When, by the way, Lee, there were poverty stricken South Africans living in tents literally meters away from her. But she wanted the whole world to be asking how she was doing in her palace. I mean, you really couldn't make a lot of this up. You really couldn't make a lot of this up. But I think this is completely damning for Meghan, actually. And I think this is Hollywood effectively divorcing themselves from Meghan Markle. She's going to lose the Netflix deal. She's already lost the Spotify deal with the executive there, Bill Simmons, calling her an effing grifter. Sure, there might be some smaller companies that are prepared to do deals with her for publicity, but fundamentally she's going to really struggle now, isn't she, given the cost of the lifestyle that she has created in Montecito?
As I said in a column for Fox News, she's become box office poison. But
Yeah.
one other thing that's so deeply and head-scratchingly troubling, Dan, is that this behavior that she exhibits starkly contrasts with the public persona she attempts to project,
Mm.
which is gratitude and personal growth and joy. Her public endorsement of self-help principles and her proclaimed journey towards joy seem grossly, Dan, insincere when juxtaposed with the reported realities of her interactions with the staff. The facade of self-improvement and authenticity is undermined by persistent damaging behavior that contradicts her professed values.
Indeed, you're completely right. And of course, she ridiculously, in the Archetypes podcast, do you remember this? She actually said that she wasn't strong enough. She tried to claim that, in fact, she wasn't demanding enough. And she
It's
would be
like the
talking
Twilight
about,
Zone.
yeah, because she'd be saying, people call me a diva. And she'd say, it doesn't make you difficult. It just makes you clear. Just say what it is you need. No, Meghan. You're a bully. That is what you are. Because you've now had multiple courtiers in the royal family set. Now, multiple top senior executives in Hollywood on your payroll. You're a dictator in high heels.
But what is it going to take, Dan? 18, 19 people have left. Right and left, we're seeing articles like this revealing the toxic work environment. We're seeing cartoons and comedians lampooning them. We're seeing, in Harry's case, charities saying that he's too divisive or controversial to get their awards. What is it going to take, in your opinion, Dan, for these two to wake up and smell the coffee?
First, though, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris. Well, I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/outspoken or by clicking in the link in the show notes below this video on YouTube and Rumble. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/outspoken and click on the link in the description below to watch the video now. You simply will not believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old, and I have to be honest, he has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. So watch his method by clicking the link in the description box below, but I'll give it to you now as well, chuckdefense.com/outspoken, or you can also scan on the QR code on screen right now. But back to the show. Well, I think it's going to take a divorce, isn't it? Really, that is the only answer now. And the problem is, Lee, Harry is so isolated. Of course, he's deeply unhappy. We know he's deeply unhappy. We know he wants a return to royal life. We know he wants his old friends back. But the problem is, Lee, there are consequences to the way he acted. All of his stock is now in a woman called Meghan Markle. He was warned. He was warned by the Markles themselves. He was warned by Samantha Markle. He was warned by his brother, Prince William. He was warned by the late Queen Elizabeth II. Don't rush. Get to know this girl properly. He ignored them all, and he allowed her to become a monster. What Meghan wants, Meghan gets. Do you remember that, Lee? He uttered that before the wedding. And the problem is that only lasted for so long, because in the end, what Meghan wanted was to be the Queen. And when she couldn't be the Queen in London, because that role was reserved for a future Queen and Kate Middleton, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, she decided to move to Hollywood, and unfortunately there are consequences to what he's done. But Lee, I want to contrast what's going on with the Hollywood Reporter with an extraordinary 180 by my former employer, the Daily Mail. And I have to say, I'm disgusted, Lee. I'm disgusted with what they're doing, because there is now a 2-pronged thing going on here. Not only are they attacking William and Catherine in the most vociferous of terms, simply for that beautiful video, which we'll come to in a moment, but they are also now blatantly siding with Prince Harry, a man, Lee, who is suing them, who is dragging their asses through court. And rather than stand up to Prince Harry and his delusions, do you know what they're doing? They are turning on William and Catherine, and they're now doing Harry's PR. So this has been going on for a number of weeks, Lee. First, there was the front page, Bring Harry In From the Cold. Then there was the column by A.N. Wilson, pillaring Prince William and saying it was William's responsibility to forgive Harry. But the worst has happened today. So there's a woman called Bryony Gordon, a quite awful columnist, actually, who has been poached from the Daily Telegraph quite specifically because of her friendship with Prince Harry. And today, on the front page of the Daily Mail, the headline, kind, funny, pretty damn normal. As he turns 40, real truth about my friend Harry. The real truth. Now, this column is piss poor, Lee. I've read it. It's terribly written. It contains absolutely no insight. It is propaganda for Harry. And imagine if you're a Daily Mail reader. And remember, Daily Mail readers, I know them incredibly well. I loved them. They are monarchists. They were incredibly loyal to the late, great Queen Elizabeth II. They're incredibly loyal to Prince Philip. And now they are incredibly loyal to Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Yet we're meant to believe that Harry is kind and pretty damn normal? Well, I wouldn't say any of the way that he's treated his own family, Lee, is kind. I wouldn't say that reducing the late Queen and Prince Philip in their dying days to dealing with their ridiculous behavior was kind. I wouldn't say that revealing private text messages between Meghan and Catherine in his gross autobiography was kind. I wouldn't say that presenting Prince William as some sort of violent bully was kind. So I'm going to be honest about this, Lee. I am disgusted with the Daily Mail. They might think that Harry's going to forgive them and he's going to drop the legal action, but at what cost? Because surely sometimes you have to put your morality first.
Well, I don't even know where to begin to respond, except to say that I think that any criticism of Princess Catherine's video is completely misguided. And so there was a lot of criticism in that Daily Mail article that you reference, shockingly so. Princess Catherine's video should be celebrated, Dan, for its authenticity, sensitivity, and the positive message it conveys.
Well, indeed. And Lee, given you've referenced it, I actually need to share, because people need to know, Lee. They need to know that the Daily Mail is now the enemy. Okay, so I'm going to share with you. So this was written by the newspaper's diary editor, Richard Eden. Now, he was a long-time critic of Harry and Meghan, so I don't know why he's done this 180. He was following in the footsteps of Liz Jones, who also wrote a horrible article about William and Catherine's video. Now, he said in his column yesterday that he is deeply concerned about the PR direction of Catherine and William. And he then ran damning quotes from friends of the King and Queen, which result in a stinging attack. Let me read them out to you. There's no coincidence that the Middletons appear in it and not the King and Queen. I can assure you that Charles and Camilla will not be filmed kissing each other on a beach until hell freezes over. It's distinctly unregal. Then another royal insider told him, all that lying round, hugging and kissing, they're not soppy teenagers. It felt manipulative. It's the sort of thing that Meghan would make. All the time, effort and expense put into making that video could have been much better spent elsewhere. Why not visit other women being treated for cancer? That's what Diana would have done. Now, Lee, this is a despicable attack carried out by the Daily Mail on the same day that they're calling Prince Harry kind and lovely, the real nice member of the royal family, on their front page. So this feels very coordinated for me. And let me just say, Catherine could not win in this incident, Lee, because you remember what happened when she was desperately trying to deal with her cancer privately earlier this year. The Sussex squad turned on her with a vengeance, spread the most revolting rumours about her marriage, about whether she was even alive. Now, when she actually opens up in a way that was demanded of her at the time, she's criticised for that. So she literally cannot win in this case. And I say shame on the Daily Mail. And you know what? Their readers are furious with them, Lee. They are furious because they support Catherine.
Well, and Dan, that's why when you say Catherine can't win, I would offer to you that Catherine can win and has won. She's won in the court of public opinion.
Very true.
Because the video, especially for those, including the Daily Mail, who claim it is manipulative, it fails to recognize the profound lesson it offers, which is that Catherine's experience and her willingness to share her journey with the public provides an invaluable perspective on what truly matters in life: resilience, love, and hope. This is not just a personal triumph, but a public gesture made with love for the people that the Prince and Princess of Wales represent. And it really is, it's so beyond herself and her own motives and being manipulative. And it really does show humanity at its best. And it shows hope for the royal family, because Catherine and William are the future of the royal family. And if they're exhibiting this good judgment and taste and sensitivity in handling this issue, then they truly are the very best custodians, and there's great hope for the future and resilience of the royal family in their hands.
Here, here. Here, here. And at least my other former employer, Lee, the Sun, seems to be holding the line, because I was very taken by a brilliant column that you wrote for them in the past few days. And I just want to read out a few words from it, actually, because I think it balances up the absolute tripe that we've seen in the Daily Mail today. So you're talking about Harry's potential royal comeback, and you say, frankly, the disloyal Duke does not deserve to be rewarded with a restoration for the unforgivable trouble he has caused. If anything, the Sussexes' remaining titles should be removed to prevent any further malicious profiteering from the association with the institution that they have sought to defame. And I agree.
Dan, I know you agree, because I quoted you years ago, I don't recall how many years ago it was, in a Fox News column, and I concluded on just that piece, saying that, well-known and highly regarded pundit Dan Wootton, I agree with entirely in that the titles need to be removed.
Yeah.
So,
because look at all of the trouble that it's caused, Lee. If they'd just done it there, it would have been like ripping off a Band-Aid. But people keep thinking that Harry and Meghan are going to start acting decently and respectfully. I never believed they would, and I think I have been proven right, because they seem to just stoop to new depths.
Well, the superficial Sussexes have drunk their own delusions, Dan, that showing up is doing good.
Yeah.
The trouble is, when they show up, they don't do good, they do damage.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry and his wife never simply show up and do good. They always have a choreographed and premeditated plan. But, Harry had the most disappointing thing, Dan, is that Harry had the very best lessons of how to navigate public life in his beloved grandparents. It seems he took on board none of their examples, and rejecting their conduct and wise counsel. And Dan, if Harry fails to use this pivotal moment that a 40th birthday could be, a pivotal moment of reflection to realign his life, he will continue to be the worst kind of cautionary tale of a privileged life spiraling downward.
Well, indeed, because you sum your column up this way, Lee, saying the professional failures and ridicule in Hollywood surely add to Harry's anguish, as must the nostalgia and isolation from estranged family, friends, and surrounding. With no clear blueprint for how to navigate his way back, he faces an uncertain future, tangled in a Hollywood web that collides with his sense of self and purpose of his birthright. And in some ways it is sad, Lee, but the problem is this is not an 18-year-old boy or a 25-year-old young man or even a 30-year-old. This is a 40-year-old man. He was warned, Lee. They begged him not to do this because they knew that this could be the outcome. And by them, I also mean the late Queen. So unfortunately, Lee, I'm not in the camp now where it should be, let's welcome him back, let's throw open our arms, William should just forgive and move on. Because I think he's made this decision, and a bit like the Duke of Windsor and Wallace Simpson, he will now be in exile. There is no way back. He made his bed.
Except that in exile, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor didn't continue to make unforgivable trouble for the monarchy. Right. And Dan, do you agree with me that on some level, Harry must regret abandoning his family, his country, and his former life of noble purpose that all the money in the world cannot replace?
Big time. Well, look, he was drunk on love, wasn't he? But unfortunately, he was manipulated. But the thing is, Lee, I could forgive a lot of this if he hadn't had launched attack after attack after attack on very decent and honourable people who could not fight back. And the one I will never forgive were the claims that they have both now withdrawn, but never apologised for, that the royal family was racist. And it did the late Queen huge damage, Lee, given she had spent her entire life developing the Commonwealth, being really actually a complete beacon of diversity and equality. So there are consequences, but it's fascinating, isn't it, Lee? It's fascinating to see the machinations, because I really never thought I would be here talking to you saying, well done, The Hollywood Reporter. The Hollywood Reporter, one of the wokest publications in the world, is now telling the truth about Harry and Meghan, but it's the Daily Mail, my former employer, who used to allow me to write the truth, which has now become a propagandist for the Sussexes. It's a fascinating turnaround, but it's so amazing to speak to you about it, Lee. And of course, you are the author, royal commentator, and advisor on Great Britain to the US House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee. I love your work, Lee. And where can people follow you to get more of it?
Well, they can follow me on X under my name, and certainly by reading the publications that to whom I'm a contributor, which include, as you pointed out, thank you, Fox News and The Sun, the Daily Telegraph, and The Spectator.
Yeah, no, you bring a brilliant transatlantic approach to these royal issues, especially with the Sussexes now in the US. Lee Cohen, such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.